Hi, you guys, and welcome back to another episode of At Home with Dr. H. Listen, y'all see my plant is growing. She is doing amazing. And this is what I want to talk about. There was a time in my life when, listen, I didn't have a green thumb. My thumb was like black. I had the black thumb of death. Okay, y'all. I could not grow a thing. I couldn't get a pothos, a fern, anything. I would kill those. And those are like the easiest plants, ever to grow. But I was determined that I wasn't going to give up. And so I've been doing good. My pothos is now in 2 pots. There's one. And there's my other. So, but this one, this is a peace lily, if you don't know, and it's just grown tremendously. I keep it in front of a sliding glass door just because that's always been a good spot, and it's grown. And so now I have to do something I'm scared to do, but I have to do it, or my plant is not going to survive. Well, it'll survive, but it's not going to be the best. And I want my plant to be the best. What do you mean? What do I mean by that? So let's get in here real quick. So that is a whole nother plant growing within my plant. And that's another one. And the original one is in the middle. And here's another one over here. I have at least, I can say, and there's another one, 4 offsprings of one plant. Man, y'all just don't know how excited I am about that. But I'm also terrified. I'm just gonna be honest. Y'all at home with me, so I just got to be honest. Of course, I got to trim off all this brown dead because, listen, if you don't trim this off, it's not conducive to the plant continuing to grow successfully. So that's part of why my plant is doing so good, because I will trim these off. I don't, this one is still hanging in there, but eventually I will be trimming him. But this is still too strong. It's really, really solid. It's all as solid as this green, so it's just now starting to turn brown. So I'm not going to trim that yet because it's still too strong. But this one I'm going to cut off, as well as this one. I'm going to cut these off later. This one I have to cut it because I can't pull it. It's still too strong. So just because it looks like it's bad doesn't mean that it is. And sometimes stuff that looks good is bad. And so sometimes, a lot of times, because it's so full, I've got to do this. I've got to root around in here and see what needs to go. Because I got a lot of stuff that looks like it's okay, that ain't okay. And all of this stuff is sucking life out of my plant. And that's a no-no. So every now and then I got to come in here and get all of these little weeds, these little leaves. See, this was all in there looking like it was part of the soil. Okay, see, this is green, but it ain't really got no life to it. Okay, so that kind of stuff, you got to go in and every now and then and just kind of see. Look at that. Those were hiding in there, seeing what was trying to infiltrate my plant. And look at that, new shoots, new already coming up from what's coming out of a whole nother plant in this one plant. The original plant, it's like, I don't know if y'all can see that, it's in the middle here. All of these on the outside are new plants that shot up from this one plant. I promise y'all I'm going somewhere with this. I promise. So as I dig around in here and you take a look, you see how I had to cut that one, but it's still very strong. Because sometimes what looks like it ain't going nowhere, it's going to shoot up and be something amazing. Look at what's already coming out of there. And so sometimes you got to dig around. See, I got to dig around and find all of these things that are literally sucking life, because they're taking away nutrients from the other parts of the plant. Now you would say, that ain't no big deal, because LaTanya, look at the plant, it's growing out of control, it's doing this, it's doing that. Yeah, but eventually, if I don't do that, the plant really won't go anywhere. My goal right now is to get my plant to grow up. That's right, I want it to grow up. Why? Because I like seeing tall plants. You know, you go into Lowe's, you know, sometimes you have stores and the plant is growing up. So that's why I have these sticks. And so the plant can actually grow up against it, so it can be a kind of a tall tree. I know it sounds crazy, but we're getting there. Because I have them here, I have them on my pothos, and both of my pothos have them. And so we're going somewhere with it because it also helps bring stability to the plant. Which brings me to where we are in this episode of At Home with Dr. H, the Global Mentor Coach. I am going to have to eventually dump this whole plant out onto some plastic or tarp or something so I can really see where to cut those other plants away and repot them. So out of this one beautiful plant, I actually have what I say 4 plants as we counted. But when I dump it out, I actually may have more than that. I can't just cut it. I've got to be able to see where to cut it. Why? Because I need to make sure that I'm not damaging anything, but I've got to give it the best possible home. Look at that. That's amazing. That's plant life. We can see right here, 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. The one in the middle, that's the original one. There's one right next to it that spawned off. Then there's one here, and then there's still one on the back side. So that's 5. But looking at the top, we only saw what, 3 or 4? You never know what's hiding inside of you until you start digging. Oh my goodness, that's so good. I'm going to take a pause, you guys, and we're going to be right back. All right, you guys, so I am back. So here we're going into part 2 of this episode of At Home with Dr. H. And so I left off talking about environment. Listen, sometimes you've got to look deeper within inside of you because you've got some things growing in you that you don't even know is there. Why? Because you've positioned yourself in the right environment for growth. A lot of times we don't even know that. We don't even see that our potential has expanded, at least to the level where it is. I didn't know that much was in that plant. I really thought that I only probably had like 2, maybe 3 extra plants in there to cut off. But now here I am counting a total of possibly 5 plants in that one plant. That's amazing. Why? Because I've nurtured that plant. I've given it everything it needs. I have created the right environment. I've given it the water. I've given it the fertilizer, you know, I've given it the right amount of sun. I've done everything necessary to make that plant successful, and it loves it. It's really doing great. Now, if I can just figure out how to do my calla lily and get it just right, I'm telling you that thing's going to take off, and I believe that it will. Just like my pothos. My pothos was dying, y'all, and I was just like, oh my God, I've had this plant for like ever. And when I say ever, I mean, I've had that plant for over 10 years. And I was like, I can't let my plant die. What's going on? But plants get sick. You can nurture the plant. You can give it everything it needs. But every now and then a plant will get sick, just like us. It's evolution. That's life. Just like as humans, we get sick. We take care of ourselves. We get a lot of sun. We get our vitamin D, our vitamin C. We take our multivitamins, but we still get sick. Airborne things happen. But there are things we do to take care of ourselves. And I was determined I was going to get my plant back to life. So what did I do? I created the right environment. I nurtured that plant and it came back to life. Not only did it come back to life, it grew so crazy that I had to cut it off, root it, and start a second one. That's what happens when you're in the right environment. You got to have the right soil, the right fertilizer, the right amount of sun. Everything is just got to be right. I even play music for my plants. That's right. It works. Trust me, okay? My plants come to life, not just when I give them water and nutrition, but when I play music. You know, they like jazz, they like gospel, you know what I mean? They like peppy stuff. They really like jazz though. But hey, I give my plants what they like. Why? Because I'm creating an environment that helps them thrive. What environment are you creating for yourself to make you thrive? When you dig deeper on the inside of you, you start seeing that, oh my God, I didn't know all of this was in me. What do I do with it? You got to take the next step. You gotta dump yourself out and figure out how you can cut it all away and replant it and give it new life. You've got to give new life to everything that's inside of you. When you start finding that new stuff, that new talent, that new gift, that new something that grew, you owe it to yourself, not to anybody else. You owe it to yourself to cut that thing away. Put it in the proper foundation. Give it the proper foundation. Create the right environment for it so it can continue to grow and thrive. That's what I'm going to do with that plant. I've got to cut those plants away, pot them, repot them, give them the proper foundation in that soil, and let them grow into something massive and great so that the world can enjoy. I might give them away so somebody else can enjoy them, but at least I've got to do something because I've already given it the right foundation. So I know that when I cut it away, I'm going to be able to give it a greater foundation so it can bloom all that much more, because all of that crammed in that pot, it's not good. All of what's in you crammed up and you not using it, it's not good. You've got to give that thing the right environment so you can keep taking off with that thing and grow. And the more you take off and use all of that stuff that's on the inside of you, putting it in the right environment, you can't do anything but thrive and do the best that you can and live your best life. That's what having the right environment will do for you. Give yourself the right environment to thrive. When you start seeing new stuff rooting and growing and it's thriving and it's prospering, you got to follow that thing. You got to put it in the right environment and take off. Trust me. So, nurture yourself. And that means cutting away. You saw how I had to pull out all of that stuff. When you start seeing dark, nasty, crazy stuff in your life, you got to cut that stuff away. Toxic people, cut it away. I did a post this past week on blocking people. Listen, people block people for their own peace. You are responsible for your environment. Every single one of us is responsible for our own environment. Anything that's toxic, chaotic to our foundation and our environment's got to go. Cut it out. Get rid of toxic people. Get rid of toxic behavior. Anything that's kind of growing in the midst. That means you got to dig. That means you got to go inside and look at stuff. You've got to reflect whether you want to or not. It's not comfortable because you don't know what's up in there. But if you don't know what's in there, you don't know how to cultivate and create the right environment so you can continue to thrive. You might have something growing in there that can really choke out the life of what God or the universe is trying to bring out of you that makes you unique. Listen, that's the stuff that will rob the world of you, of your unique essence. And that's what makes this world so colorful. That's what makes this world so creative. That's what makes this world so full of life and energy. All of us, we have something to bring to the table. We bring color to this world. And I'm not talking about skin. I'm talking about our personalities, our essence. I'm talking about who we are as people and how we react and respond to life. We all have different perspectives and point of views. But that's what makes the world so colorful and worth living. So you gotta root around in there. You gotta see what's growing amongst you. You gotta see what's died. Because there's parts of your character that died off a long time ago, but you never took time to pluck it out and get it away and throw that thing in the trash. So you're trying to hold on to something that you don't even know is holding on to you that really died off. And all it needs you to do is just pick it up and throw it in the trash. Just like I did those plants. You may have things inside of you that looks like it's part of life. Remember those little dark green green shoots, leaves that look like they were green, but there was something a little off because they are dead. They look like they have life, but they're really dead. You got to cut that stuff off too. Why? Because that's sucking energy. That's taking nutrients, life away from what else? From all that great, powerful stuff that's growing inside of you. You got to cultivate the right environment for you to grow. So That's this episode of At Home with Dr. Ace, the Global Mentor Coach. Remember to spread lots of love and light. Bye.